Yo, welcome back to another session of Blow One With Me. My name is James. I'm here for your watching entertainment, whatever you want to call this. This is my show. This is my production. This is my offering to the world. Before we get started, we give honor to God, the Most High. Without Him, I wouldn't have this opportunity to be here, to share with you, or even be here in this presence, alive and well, breathing this air right now. I described the show a little bit before. It's about me sharing some of my life stories and adventures, trials and tribulations, and maybe helping to offer a healing to the world. Our people out here hurting every day. COVID-19 killing us. We dying. We got black on black crimes. We got Black Lives Matter. We got racism. All kind of things we dealing with. And in some form or fashion, I think some of the things we need to deal with, we may not even be aware of that's going on inside of us. Some of these things that I bring to light to talk about, people may not even be aware of that I went through, or they may not even understand that about me. So, in doing some of this stuff that I've been doing, I've been really finding out a lot about myself and revealing a lot of things and unpacking. Right? So, before we start to unpack, we ready? Before we start to unpack, this episode was kind of the beginning of all of this, right? So I'm gonna ask you guys to be patient with me with this episode. I'm gonna ask you to stay with me. Sometimes you may even have to rewind back and go back, but the way my brain works, sometimes I might run over something and then I might have to go back. But I try to plot this out in a way that I could tell it and depict this story carefully and with purpose. And pure intention and honesty. So with that in mind, the name of this episode, you probably already seen it. Jaboe, which is my nickname, Jaboe. All the old schoolers know that. Jaboe, honor thy mother and father. So this gonna be pretty much about my mother and my father and my parenting and this era in my life. Which kind of pointed me in a direction. It has some cause and effects to it, but I really had to sit down and talk with my mother about this conversation. And then having this conversation with my mom, she gave me her blessing, like with no hesitation. Like I know there's things that we go through in our life that we necessarily don't care to share or bring up again or reveal or want nobody to know. But without even asking me a question, my mom was like, I have no shame. All the things that I went through in my life made me who I am today. I just seen her head shaking through the phone when I talked to her. So, in that, Ma, we're going to be sipping a little bit of tea later. So every time I sip this cup, Ma, this for you. We're going to have to sip some tea later. But, had to talk with my mom. I also had to talk with my dad. And he gave me his blessing immediately, too. So, with that being said, I know I may have some critics or people like, you should be telling your business, da 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 da. But I feel like this is my purpose. This is my service or my testimony to the world. Like just telling my story, and maybe somebody you know or somebody that affiliated with, you could share or maybe get something out of it. Like I just know there's some healing in this somewhere. So I wanted to start with my mom. 1974, This beautiful lady named Deborah Lorraine Ray had me, the love of my life. Now I speak about my mom now because we have an awesome relationship now. I love my mother to death. Like I bend over backwards for her. I love you, mom. But we've had our share of ups and downs. Like we've been through some things. But let me get into this. Okay, so I was born 1974 to my mom. Um, my fondest memories. Um, like I never thought we wanted for anything. I remember. I don't have too many memories of my baby sister, but I remember me and my brother running around when we lived on 116th and Kinsman. Something that stick out in my head is when this dude jumped off the porch. I got a whooping for it because he had stitches in his forehead. I don't know what he was doing. He jumped off the second floor porch into the bushes. The bushes saved him because I don't even know if he made it. But that's the first time he got stitches. And the second time he got stitches, I got a whooping too. But like, yeah, he always climbing on shit and jumping the hell. That's what he got the marks on his head today. Bruh, don't you? Got the marks on his head today from it. But yeah, my earliest memories was in that house on 116 in Kinsman. And we had a regular life. It was pretty much Deshaun, Nicole, and James. And I was the oldest, and we used to rip and run through the house. We had a good childhood. Like, I don't think we went hungry. We never knew the difference. Um, and then I remember that house catching fire, right? So this was probably like the first traumatic thing I can remember in my life. Our house caught fire. I don't remember how it caught fire. I don't remember exactly, but I remember going to stay with my brother's dad, Jerome Courts, JC. Now, he was a barber. I remember I thought this guy was my dad. Now, mind you, I thought this guy was my dad. We went to the barbershop every weekend. Me and my brother got a haircut. Like, this went on for like forever as I can remember it as a little boy. So I thought this guy was my dad. Like, he treated me like I was his son. So, like, he gave me money and gave my brother money. So, like, I thought that was my dad. So, when our house caught fire, we went to stay with his family. Auntie Fiesta Hester. I remember them. They took us in like we was family. Like, got our butts whooped and everything. Like, that was it. And then I remember my memory a little jacked up right now. We unpacking this. Let me take this stuff out. Unpack. This memory. I don't remember JC no more. And I remember a guy named Ed. Now, this guy was a big staple in my life. He was the stepfather role in my life. I remember him. I remember him when we stayed on 116 because he had a store across the street. We used to always go to the corner store across the street, and so yeah, that's where I remember him from. Because the night our house caught on fire, he the one gave us a ride in this big blue truck. He had a monster truck, big blue truck with the red cover lights over the headlights. Blue with the big blue and red rims. The tires was tall as me. Like, he the one got me in the cars. Like, he was a car guy. He was an auto mechanic, body guy, and he got me in the cars. He had so many different cars. So, like, I love that guy. First guy, only man ever whooped my ass too. Only man ever whooped my ass. Pulled out a paddle and paddled my ass. So that was the guy who taught me my discipline briefly, and I ain't think he had no right because I ain't think he was my dad, but he took care of me. So I respected Ed. I sure did. But I speak about him a lot because he was pivotal in my life. I talk about him because, like, growing up through those years, so I probably was 5, 6, or 7, somewhere around there, them early memories with the house catching fire, and then we grew up. So my mother was, I remember JC as I thought was my dad. Ed came along. And now all of a sudden I'm starting to remember my sister when I'm depicting this story, right? Because I thought that Ed was my sister's dad. Well, he was my sister's. He was around when my sister was a baby, so that was her dad, right? So so I grew up knowing Ed as my father or as my role model in life. He was my dad. He was that guy. So um, he taught me how to drive. He taught me the love of cars, all about cars. Like that was him. And I remember a memory, and this brings me to a pivotal moment too. Uh, I don't remember what was happening, but my mother and Ed was arguing and probably having a little fussing and the fighting. And I only say that now because, like, I've been in relationships now, and I've been fussing and fighting and arguing and things like that. And this is just things that happen in relationships, right? To get into it, right? So this particular time, and and it made me remember because, like, he used to have seizures, right? So I'm looking this way, the camera right there. But he used to have seizures, right? And I remember my mom used to wake me up in the middle of the night sometimes when he would have an episode, and I would be the guy to call 911, go get the spoon, the apparatus to put in his mouth, or I would be the one to hold his legs down while he was shaking. And like I seen a lot of horrendous, like I was traumatized that because I seen him naked, my mama naked, like, and I was holding feet down, like, oh my God. But like it was a lot of that. And after he would come to and out of that stuff, and like we'd be at the house, he would always thank me, like, and say thank you, James, for Jaboe. He called me Jaboe. Thank you, Jaboe, for helping me out with that. So like, it was, I always had, like, I felt like I had a special place in his heart, and he thought I was like his other older son because I knew he had another son. But like, he treated me like that guy. You know what I'm saying? So I say that to say I'm talking about this memory. All right. So as we get older and we growing up on the streets and we meeting all our little lifetime friends now. I'm meeting all my buddies, Var, Donnie, Dookie, all of these Shelton, Courtney, all of them guys grew up on the block with, right? And so this one day, my mom and Ed was arguing, right? And I didn't know if he was having another episode or something, but I got up and I can't think I came off the front porch, right? And I looked, and he had my mama down on the couch or something, like hitting on her, pushing her down or something. And so I screamed out, "Get off my mama!" And my mama like, "James, go on, mind your." She said something, telling me to get out the way. I act like I was getting out the way. I went in the kitchen and I got one of them. Y'all remember them black cast iron skillets, them heavy ones, the ones you could peel a crust off the side of the outside, them big ones. I went and got the biggest one, and I raised that motherfucker up, and I said, "You gonna get off my mama?" And he looked at me, and I almost shit myself because I couldn't. He was a little cocky little dude, like he was strong, right? So he looked at me, and he just left, right? So this is really, really pivotal because it's the last time I seen him alive, or the last time I remember him. Um, because after that, my mom put him out, right? Typical, you know what I'm saying? Typical. So it had to be probably about a week or two. I think my mom was giving him a hard time. She wasn't dealing with that hitting stuff, right? So I'm just looking back and I'm paraphrasing all of this because this is my version. I have not necessarily discussed this version of these things and these events with my mom. So some of the stuff and how she hearing me explain it now is probably her first time. So that's why I said we're going to have to sip tea. And I got my tea with me today. So like me and my mom going to probably sip a little tea. But my version of it is that she wasn't having him hitting on her and stuff, so she was putting her foot down, right? So he was having a hard time, I guess. So we didn't know that he was sleeping in the car in our garage behind the house, right? We stayed in the corner house, so the garage was like easy access to. You didn't have to walk up the driveway to get to it. It was just right there. So our garage was kind of, the door was broken down, like halfway broken from the top. And this car, I remember, was a 74 Chevy Impala, mint green with the flake, white vinyl top with the white leather interior. Bad! Because he said I could have it when I was 16. I knew it. So that car was in the garage. So we outside, me, my dudes. I don't know if me, my cousin. It was. I know my cousin was there, David. Rest in peace. God rest his soul. I know he was there. It was me, him, my brother, maybe LeVar, Daniel, somebody. We outside hooping on a crate, nailed up to the garage. So we hooping, and then we look in the garage and we see the car. It's two cars in there, but one car got, the Ed's car had flies in the windshield. It was flies in the windshield. So we like, what's going on? We curious little kids. Now we always on a mission. So this was another mission. So we climb. Dave climb. He want to be the brave one. He climb over the door. He go in there and look, and he grabbed the door handle, and something move in the car, and he jump out like, ah! He come jumping out the garage. He like, it's Ed in there dead, man. He just moved. As soon as I touched the car, he slid to the side. He fell over. So I don't know how we confirmed it, but I wasn't going in there. But I think the smell and stuff started radiating too. I think he cracked the door or something, right? So that just blew that day. So that, I say all of that to say that Ed had a seizure. He was sleeping in the car because my mom put him out, and I think he had a seizure in there and then recovered from it, and he passed away. Like, mind you, he was getting over. Like, I had dealt with he had dealt with them seizures the whole time I knew him. So he was getting older. So, like, I guess he really, I don't know, but I guess it had got worse for him, and he passed away in that car that day. And I just remember how sad my mother was. I just remember how sad my mother was. And now during this time, my mother was in the church. We was going to church. We had been in church for a little while, so she had a little bit of faith. But I think that kind of broke my mother, because that guy took care of us. And me knowing now, none of us was his kids, and he took care of all of us. So he was that guy for my mom, and he passed away. So I'm gonna stop that part right there because this is a difficult story to unpack. I'm breaking down a lot of weed, y'all. So I'm gonna be unpacking and breaking down, and then we're gonna wrap it up, okay? So I'm gonna stop right there because that was a pivot. I was like 14 right there, 14 maybe 15. I wasn't 15 yet, because the next part of this story, the next frame of this story is a bit overlapping. Okay, so like I was 14. My mom's boyfriend, husband, common law husband passed away. Big part of her life, big part of our lives. It was a big. I think it was probably a big loss for us at that time, as kids, and I can't really remember dealing with it. I just remember my mom being so sad, and that's what I remember about my mom being so sad. She was different. Like, I think I avoided my mom so I wouldn't get sad. I really do, because I just remember her being sad, and I didn't want to stay in the house. Like, I was finding reasons to go somewhere. Like, I was starting to go to the mall by myself and all that around this time. So that's what I was doing. And I had a best friend, which reminds me, because it's crazy how this story ties. A best friend, she was a female. When I was growing up, my first best friend was a female. And so at this time, we were starting to get close. Told y'all I wasn't gonna drop no names. It's my baby mama, but y'all probably figure this out. Um, First baby mama. She was my best friend, and we wound up sleeping together on a mistake, right? On one of these, my mama go to choir rehearsal on Friday nights. Me and my boys, we would get our oldest dude, Donnie. Donnie would go get all of us 40s. We all have our own 40, and we be in my mama's basement drinking 40s. Getting geek. So that's one of those nights is how I had my first son. But I didn't know that I had that son till 8 months later. I'm gonna stop there and I'm gonna bring it back. Okay, so we're gonna unpack this next part. So through that part, we moved. After that happened, everything I talk about happened. We moved. I noticed that my life started to change a little bit. Well, me, my brother, and sister, our lives started to change. Um, we got, like I told you, we never thought we needed or wanted for anything. So at this particular time, um, I'm going too fast. See, I'm going too fast. At this particular time, I think, I got to tell this and then I come back. I think things started to get less and less. Um, Things started not to be as plentiful around. We had moved. Um, and when we moved, it wasn't as nice. It was a bigger place, but it wasn't as nice as the other place was. And the people that we lived around were a little bit scraggly. Um, so I say all that to say, our family got caught up in that epidemic, that early 90s, late 80s epidemic. And I think my mother had her reasons. I think after Ed passed away, and this is all hindsight, me looking back, like this was hard for my mother, and I don't think she ever really bounced back after that. Um, so we became subject to that. Um, this takes me up to like when I was 15. Now, I say all of that because I skipped one little part because my life was really busy. And I'm saying this because this is a pivotal part of my life. And this is why it takes so much for me to probably explain a lot of this, right? So I'm going to go back to this part because I became a father between the ages of 15 and 16. Um, Before we moved, and I'm going to call that to the trap. Before we moved to the trap, my mom had let a young lady come stay with us, right? Now, mind you, I had already had 40s and my best friend on choir rehearsal night. That doesn't sound good. But, like, that night she had actually got pregnant. I didn't know. I didn't. I had no clue. But, like, my mom had let this lady move in with us who was having some trouble. She was one of my aunt's best friends, my younger aunt, best friends, and she was in a situation where she had to leave a woman's shelter. So my mother, being the kind-hearted person she is, like if you know my mother, she let anybody in her house. Like every WrestleMania was at her house. We was always sitting at my house on the front porch with the radio blasting. Late nights, like we had to come in front of the house. We had to come in front of the house when the street lights came on, but everybody was in front of our house. So like everybody like ate at my house. Like it was literally a family in that neighborhood because I ate at a lot of people's houses too. But like my mom let the lady come stay. Now, mind you, I'm 15. I think she was like 22. She was looking good. So like I'm paraphrasing this, but like I hit, right? So my mama ain't know about it nothing. I think I did that like on a choir rehearsal night too, right? Or a Saturday night at the Apollo late night watching TV, something like that. creeping around. And so, like, yeah, she went back to New York after she got out of her little space she was in. But when she got back to New York, I found out she was pregnant. Now, mind you, I'm 15 years old. I'm 15 years old. I just slept with this woman, and I thought I was the shit too. Like, I'm 15. Ain't none of my dudes bagging no 22-year-old, no 20. Ain't none of them bagging. No, I thought I was the. So, um, she gets back in contact with my mom and talk to me, and we talking on the phone late night, calling me and everything. So we kind of developed a relationship, and she said she was having my kid and she was gonna come back to Cleveland and live, right? So she comes back to Cleveland before she has the baby. So I go back to the old neighborhood where I used to live at. So I'm coming down the block. It's like October around my birthday or something. Coming down the block, I see my best friend. She come out of her house and her belly big. I look at her, point at her literally like this. She'll tell you the same thing. I said, who baby you having? And she said yours. I'm 15 years old. I think I probably had just turned 16, something like that. I got two babies on the way. So that was big. Like, and I talked to one of my content creators about this, and she was like, "How did that make you feel?" Being, I don't know how it made me feel, really. But when I think about back to it, I was eager to be a dad. I wasn't disappointed, and that's when I started selling more dope, trying to sell more dope, or trying to learn how to sell dope, so I could take care of my kids. Like literally, that's what I did. Um, They wasn't the best choices, but that's what was at hand. That was available to me right then to because I just got like one baby about to be here in a month, and I think Brittany was coming a couple months later. Like they was coming back to back. So I felt like I had to do what I had to do. So I felt like I was stepping up to the plate. But yeah, I say that to bring that to light because life is life on life terms, right? I didn't necessarily. I probably made some bad decisions, and they was on the humble by not wrapping up and not knowing to wrap up or whatever that was might have been. But I was just starting to dip. Like I was just starting to dip. So like it was crazy. So we're gonna start rolling this up. Yeah. Um, I know some parts of this story that I'm leaving out. Um, but I want to go back to my mom and that epidemic. That was big. It caused a lot of strife, like in my life. Like I was dealing with that part and realizing I was starting to realize that my mother was like a little sick, you know, and what it was really doing to me. So I went from being 14, 15 to losing my mom to an epidemic to turning to a dad twice at 15 and then getting in a relationship with an older woman. So I'm not saying that for no sympathy or nothing like that because I feel like my path was my path. Everything happens. There's no